Hey guys, this is Joel again. The fuck happened there? And it's time for another part of deck analysis. And for today, I realized I haven't done one in about 2 weeks. The last one I did was Watts. Today I'm going to do the other one I barely played a lot against. I don't have the full deck here. I do have some of the fusions though. And that would be heroes. So yeah, I'm just going to go right into it and talk about the ways heroes are played and the way people can play with it and play against it. Primarily, the point of the hero deck, 95% of the time, is to get fusions out, because fusions allow you to do the madness. Obviously, one destroys the whole field, one pluses 300, one halves, one lets you draw if you destroy a monster. They all do their own separate brokenness, and then Super Poly is just a really broken card in general. The other good thing about the deck that it does really well is that normally the deck presents like applicable beaters, like one summon beaters. Your Stratos is an 18 beat stick, Alias, Triple Alias is a 19 beat stick with a lot of compatibility with it. Decks run Thunder Kings, Crusade of Endymion. They run Evocator, the 19 beat stick, Gemini, the fire one, the Cyber Dragons. They can go Gores, they can go Honest as a big butt. Things of that matter, people like to run with the deck as well because it gives it enough back row and support. The deck also does really well in terms of drawing and providing its own engine. Again, like I mentioned before with an Alias, it's a lot of compatibility with the deck. You open up Alias, Spark, Hero Blast, you can pretty much have yourself a good, decent field. No, that's actually probably the best field you can actually open up with for about the first 3 or 4 turns. Because you can spark off your Alias, and if they go something else for the next summon, your Hero Blast brings you back your Alias, and you draw 1 from the spark. So you end up with a +1. Alright? The way people run the decks are TD Stun, not TD Stun, I don't know why, but it actually does have a variant from it. Hero Stun, in which it's a moderate low count of heroes, or monsters in general, usually about a Stratos, Triple Alias. I don't know about the other ones after that. It could be a Gores, it could be a Nonce, it could be a Thunder Kings. But usually those tend to be the most used in the stun version. Or Cyber Dragon as well, and Beast King Barbatos. The reason why that is because the stun allows you with skill drain, because no one is inflicted with skill drain. The only card that you can technically count as inflicted by skill drain is Stratos. So Stratos is the only card that gets hurt by skill drain unless you go into your fusions, in which case that also helps. But in terms of the main deck itself, skill drain only hurts Stratos. If you want to go with all the other things, Beast King begins with 3,000 beat stick. You can still special summon Cyber Dragon. Thunder King still goes up in its effect, and then Alias is just a broken beat stick with back row. You have your Gemini Sparks and your Hero Blast and your Super Polys. Those are your 3 staples for your hero deck, and your Miracle Fusion. Miracle Fusion is probably the best top decking card of all time. Okay, that's my personal opinion. That allows so many plays to go off. You think you stop a summon from an Alias, you bottomless it, that was your only back row, boom, well, maybe you didn't bottomless it, maybe you're warning the summon, and that was your only back row. Then they Miracle Fusion, and then they go off on their plays. So you really gotta see where the ins and outs of that deck are. You think Macrocosmo and D5s hurt the deck? They can to a certain extent, yet they can play around it really easily just because of the fact that they have so much good back row and such high beat sticks that it's really hard to get over. Decks that do really well against it are decks that don't allow them to use their spell cards as much. So 6 Hams do have a credible background, or credible fight against them. Dino Rabbits as well, and then Dark Wolves present too much of a field presence to really go off on plays. Plus, if they can control hand, board, and graveyard, then it's really hard to do much. The deck, the speed bubble beat version, also revolves around your that's your basic is Stratos and Triple Alias. So when I say your basic, I'm gonna just mean triple Stratos. I wish we lived in that format. When I say your basic, I mean Stratos and Triple Alias. So every time I say basic, there's just those 4 cards. So you run your basic, plus you go double or triple Bubble Man, and you might go something else. Maybe something else that allows you to special summon 4 Ton Treasure is another card that is really used really well. Allows you to do quick exceeds and OTK potential. Alright, so you can heavy Dark Hole, and then the rest of your hand is allowing you to go off on these plays and to prevent your opponent from coming back from them. Now, I guess the con of the deck can be is if you can't OTK and your opponent does have a response to all the exceeds and to your big play, such as a Gores, Trag, a Necrogardna, Battle Fitter, any of those kind of cards. If any of those kind of cards kind of get activated, then you have to deal with the fact that you probably don't have suitable back row. They might have just been miracles and e-calls that you were just going off on to allow your plays to go through, or they're nothing there and you don't have a credible hand to go off your back of or to go back of. Sure, if you do have shiny, you go back 2 monsters, but there's a good chance that you're not going to do a lot with just those 2 monsters. You're going to have to require a little bit of skill with that. That's why I never personally like the Bumblebee deck, because if it can never go off properly, then there's a slight chance that that's going to be their fault as well. Because then your opponent goes off, sets up their nets, and then they can counterbalance and actually potentially win off of that. So you got to know if the Bumblebee deck is credible enough to actually finish in 1 turn or present such a strong turn that your opponent can't come back from it, because otherwise they're going to come back and then you're not going to be able to counter or rebound from such a loss. The other versions that I see are Little City, which focuses a lot on removal from play. So macros and D5s work with the deck. Again, this is just another version of Stun, though they just revolve Macro and Cosmos, and Parallel World Fusions can also be added into the deck. They're just helpful. They let your cards go back in the deck, and you can just summon a beater without such trouble, and it creates problems for your opponent's deck. Similar in the way of TG, sorry, I see TG Stun all the time, of the Hero Stun build. It's just a really good way to prevent plays for Dark Worlds, windups, Geargias on some things, and 6 hands as well. Just those kind of decks, Dark Worlds and all that stuff. I might say Dark Worlds, but if that kind of deck is kind of like on the third version, on the third level of it, because I still consider Stun the best, Bumblebee second, and then that version. Or you can go original Polymerization build, in which case you revolve around Polymerization and Fusion Gate to allow for very quick ones off first turn and stuff like that. Though I guess that deck does kind of have its negatives in terms of you lose hand control. That's always been my biggest issue, is if you don't have hand control, I don't think you can properly win the duel. That's just all I'm going to say, and that's all I'm going to talk about it. The fusions and Super Poly is, again, the most broken thing, because now you can do everything. You can Super Poly everything possible except Divine Beast, but maybe we'll get to that at one point. Because of that, it becomes the most diverse deck and the most ins and out of and it becomes one of the most profitable deck on just any turn. You think a Logia is going to stop a hero player? Probably not, because they can just set that shit, activate Super Poly, nothing's going to stop that. Now, unless you can bottomless it or do something afterwards. Again, the deck does really well. It's not topping, because a lot of people know the ins and outs of the deck. It's such a simple deck to go around. I do believe like Gozen Match is such a really good card against the deck, because if you can properly Gozen Match, like say they're water and then call Gozen or do Gozen Match, then they're going to have a hard time to come back from that, because they're going to either kill their Bubble Man, have the Miracle Fuse, or do something, and you're going to make them waste a little bit of their resources, and it's going to allow you some time to go off against it. So I do believe Gozen Match is such a good play against it. Super Poly is a credible side deck card, but I feel even for the hero player, if you open up multiple Super Polys, they clog, and you're going to end up wasting one just to activate one, and that's not a good thing, okay? Or wasting a Miracle for a Super Poly. That's never a good thing. Even when you're desperate, that's never a good thing. I would take the hit and see if my next draw would help me, but it's never going to come to the point where you're going to have to drop Super Poly for Super Poly. It shouldn't come to that point, or Miracle for Super Poly. That's desperateness at its best. I can probably say, I'm gonna retrace my words. If you can properly tell you're gonna win, and you're gonna OTK or trying to finish it off, go for it. But if you're doing it at a desperateness, I wouldn't suggest so, because if you can survive and your next turn actually helps, like your next turn brings back Stratos and something, then you +1, then you can set your Super Poly, hit your Alias, next turn, blah, go, win, whatever you have to do. Alright. Again, any version, it's such a hard thing to talk about heroes in general because those are technically mostly of the basic plays. Again, the deck just has massive back row support and whatever you want to run, any trap really works for it. Some pulls, torrential, warnings, DPs, bottomless, warnings, judgment, etc., etc., etc. Any of those kind of things properly work with the deck really well. Skill drain, things of that matter. It's just the deck's really hard because you can play so many variants of it. There's the Dino Rabbit version of it being played in my locals, and it's just like playing against Dino Rabbits, and Gozen Match actually works really well against this version of Dino Rabbits. So I mean, that's pretty much the quick analysis of how to play the deck and how to play against it. Again, if you can stop these plays going off, you're going to make them waste a lot more resources than you think. They're going to go and say, I still have an out left to this, but more than likely they probably don't, or they're going to waste multiple resources to get rid of one card, two cards, and you can still come back from that easily. Just don't be so worried about the high beater that's present on the field. Let that go by first. Get rid of it. Let them do their pluses. My phone's ringing. Screw that. I'm trying to finish it. Let them go up on their pluses. Let them think what they're doing is best. But they're probably going to mess up at one point and forget something, like their returns from Shiny. That's all I'm going to talk about right now. I'll catch you later. If there's anything I missed, let me know down below. Subscribe, like, comment. I'll see you guys later. Fuck you, phone.